Well, one of the things that jumped out at me with the neuroscience that you mentioned uh, is this idea that our brains are taking snapshots of things. And the first thing that I thought of was, a little challenge I'm doing for myself is to use really noisy highways as memory palaces. And it always seems like a distraction. And I think back to some of the, medieval writings and the ancient Greek writings where they, talk about quiet places and so forth. And I wonder if they were anticipating highways because it seems like there's an interference, even though in my mind the highway's quiet. My brain has taken a snapshot, so to speak, of it being noisy. Does that gel with what you've been discovering in the neuroscience?
Yeah.
And
Noise will certainly interfere because you need your brain to focus. And I wonder if that's why so many shops have music and noise and things going on, because it stops you focusing and being reasonable about, do I really want to spend this much money?
right.
I'm concerned about the level of noise, so I think it definitely interferes with it. But if your experiments show otherwise, I'd be surprised.
Well, no, they don't show otherwise, but I've done it as a way of upping the challenge for myself
Ah,
and personal experiments. And it's, to be honest, it's not worth the additional effort at the end of the day, but it is that sort of, making things more challenging, having a certain growth effect overall. But it's just when I read about this snapshot effect that the brain may be making, I was like, oh, maybe that's why this noise is interfering. But you yourself talk about having streets and outdoor locations as memory palaces in your journeys. Are they all quiet by choice, or do you ever have noisier locations?
I haven't thought about it. I've got about 10 kilometres of Memory Palace now mapped out around Castlemaine, but I live in Castlemaine, a country town.
Right.
But now that, but some of it is along the highway, and I just don't notice the noise. That's one thing I've found since I've been doing this memory training is my ability to focus is so much better than it ever was before. Even when I'm just doing ordinary things, I have the capability now of excluding interfering thoughts when I want to focus. And that's one thing I learnt with the memory training for the competitions is the first thing, I'd be memorising a deck of cards and suddenly I'll be thinking, have I taken something out of the freezer for dinner and things like that. Once I started the training, I learnt to block that stuff. So now that I think of it, I do have noisy roads and things, but when I'm concentrating on the memory palaces, I just don't notice it.
Right.
I hadn't thought about that.
I technically don't notice it either, but it seems like they're harder to use. And I wondered if it's because of the encoding of it. My brain knows it's a noisy highway, so maybe it seemed odd to me that it would be an additional level of challenge.
But our highway up here,
Yeah,
level of noise is not high at all.
right.
And I'm walking, I've got time. I don't rush things. And that's what St. Augustine and a lot of the other memory people talk about meditating. They're
Mm,
not sitting cross-legged,
right.
emptying their minds. They're concentrating on their memory palaces and the images and stories. So when I'm walking, I do take time. My longest memory palace is 5 kilometres for the radicals, for the Chinese characters.
Right.
So as I walk past each house, I've got time for a truck to go past and be gone, and I'm still at that same location.